Hello, everyone, and welcome to Game Week 33 of the Premium FPL podcast. We are at premium_FPL on Twitter. The game week this week kind of feels a bit inconsequential after what's gone on the past week, but I'm sure as you start to ramp up for the running, things will start to move towards fantasy. Unlike Dean Smith, we live in the fantasy world, not the real world. So it's joined, as always, by Mindy. What do you make of the game week? Bit unusual circumstances.
Yeah, it's been a very strange few days with the news on Sunday, obviously the Super League nonsense. And then didn't think it could get any worse, like just so what's the word? When you're disenchanted, sort of feeling disillusioned with football. And then I thought, five-a-side might cheer me up Monday evening and then see you diving about and arguing with the other
Oh,
team.
come on.
Who invited Craig Bellamy? So I was like, what a way to round off a horrible couple of days. But yeah,
if you saw the stats, I'm like Jack Grealish, most fouls against. But he just targeted me.
But yeah, it's all gone kaput now, isn't it? So we can actually, it's all unravelled in spectacular fashion. So can start to move our.
What's that? Our five-a-side team or the Super League?
Both. You're still doing all right fantasy wise, though, aren't you? You rank and stuff. You had any thoughts of maybe a franchise fantasy league? Are you maybe doing a breakaway podcast or anything like that?
Potentially. Depends how much money I'm offered. No, I'm not motivated by money, as you well know. Two loyal workers to the British Broadcasting Corporation. We
So we should timestamp this. We're recording during the Spurs game on Wednesday evening. Tottenham have just equalised. Bale's bagged. I thought that might happen. I thought he'd want to stick his.
Missed it.
I thought he'd want to, first game without Mourinho in charge, just get a goal. I wonder what his celebration was like if he's giving it some extra oomph for the cameras. So in case Jose is watching. But yeah, that's interesting because I think Tottenham, if they do have a bit of a new manager bounce, might change plans. But they've obviously got the blank this week, which we'll talk about. Running order this week is Tottenham and City are blanking. What to do? Kane's got an injury which we don't really know how serious that is, so it's a bit hard to plan for that. But probably just gonna plan as if he'll be back after the blank, which is probably all we can do at the moment. Been a lot of goalkeeper rotation and just rotation in general. So an update on what to do with that. Wildcarders who got new keepers in Game Week 31 have been done right up, haven't they? Who are your two keepers, by the way?
Mendy and Forster. Yeah, kind of wish it was the first time he took out Emmy all season, and if he had the time back, I probably would have kept him in with the double and not blank. Villa to come.
And then also going to look at what teams do we need to be targeting now, because there's not that many teams left with stuff to play for, and the rotation factor with European competitions is still proving problematic. So we'll have a look at who are the best teams and players to target with that in mind. And then there's been some updates around double game week 35 and more blanks after that, which has come about because of the Premier League plans to get fans in the ground for the last game or two, which has meant things being moved. So I think Callum's read up all on that, haven't you? You've got some concrete advice to give everyone, and you'll be able to do that.
Concrete. I'm trying to make a sense of it, really, and there is a potential with the game moving with fans there as well that might change even further. So just when you thought the most complicated FPL season, I can kind of look forward to the running. I know where my games are. It's going to be interesting, especially with most people without chips. Well, me and you without chips. So every transfer is going to be with the forethought of what's coming around the corner, really.
Yeah, it's been the worst season for planning, really. It's just a bit of a nightmare.
Well, best. It depends how much of a nerd you are, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it depends how often you want to refresh the Premier League's Twitter feed to see when fixtures have been announced and stuff. But before we get into all that, get the housekeeping out of the way. So it's another Friday deadline. So
Yeah, quick turnaround as well from the Thursday game.
yeah, so most people will be looking at their teams probably Friday during work and stuff, won't they? To be honest, for this week, like if you can get players out this week with the quick turnaround and with the uncertainty around injuries and stuff, I'd be tempted. Like if you're unsure, just save a transfer, especially with the double game weeks coming. Like you probably won't regret that. But yeah. What else? Follow us, premium_FPL on Twitter, and we're almost at 700 followers on Twitter. So if you can help tip us over the edge, that'd be much appreciated. And Callum's been doing bonus videos on YouTube every week, the past few. So looking to keep that up. So just subscribe on YouTube as well for Callum's march towards top 1K. And that segues us into your segment, doesn't it? Your week and your updated plans for cracking that 3-figure rank.
Well, you've set me up really, because before we came on air, before we started recording, I was pretty unsure as to what I'm going to do, but you said let's do it anyway. So let's try and make sense of my transfers this week and going forward, looking at the blanks and doubles. So my current rank with Spurs at 1-0 with Southampton is 2,504 in the world, which is slightly down. It's about 100 down on last position. So
my heart bleeds for you.
So obviously I had a terrible game week, but yeah, so 51 points. Looking like Aspilicueta's not played. So Holding's going to come in for 2, and then I've got Iheanacho tomorrow as well. So that might change, but a lot of teams have them. A lot of teams have Iheanacho especially. So it'd be interesting to see what happens come Thursday. And then, yeah, in terms of what I'm going to do, it's good to see Trent was the big one on the wild card for me. He's absolutely smashed it since brought him in. So and with the Liverpool fixture run, I think that Trent, Jota, Salah triple up is going to stay. So that's good. Kane, captaincy this week, 12, but then didn't play this game against Southampton. So there's a lot of question marks about his injury, and I'm kind of hoping that Ryan Mason after this game might update people on where he is, because he was very coy before Southampton. He said he wasn't going to make Southampton, but they don't know yet about Sunday. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there, and that'll probably affect my transfers this week. I'm still very much undecided. If Kane is out, I probably will do Kane to Vardy if he's out for 2 to 3 weeks, but I'm pretty reluctant to do that just because after Tottenham's blank, they go on to face, is it Sheffield United, Leeds, Wolves, Villa, and Leicester. So you're pretty reluctant to sell Kane and Son. I know Son's not done much tonight, but with them fixtures to come, I'm pretty reluctant. And if he is fit, then I would have 10 players for game week 33. I've got them written out here. I'd have Mendy, Aspilicueta, Shaw, Trent, Holding, Fernandez, Jota, Salah, Lingard, and Iheanacho. So it's just going to be who I get in at that 11th man. I mean, I've got 4 players who I can bring out: Kane, Son, Diaz, and Keenan Davis for Villa, who's obviously not playing, but he's 4.2. So it doesn't give me much wiggle room to do a single transfer. So it's very much going to come down to the wire. And I'm not giving too much away on this preview, which Mindy will hate me for. But the main ones are probably even going to be Kane for Vardy, as I talked about. Maybe some update from Tuchel as to what the position is of Mendy and Kepa now. In an ideal world, he'll say, in terms of making the transfer easier, he'll say Kepa's going to play Premier League for the rest of the season. Mendy will play Champions League. But even then, it's a lot of... I mean, it's going to be tricky.
If he does say
in terms
that,
of, I guess,
would you then concentrate on getting Mendy out?
Yeah, definitely. If he says Kepa's his number one keeper for the Premier League, but I can't see him doing that just because, what is it, 2 Champions League and 3 to get to the final and 1 FA Cup. So he's going to play some Premier League, which makes it worse from our point of view, because most of us went for the Mendy forced double up, and Southampton aren't going to look like they're going to keep a clean sheet anytime soon, and they also don't play in 33. So that might be one.
Forster's not playing tonight either, so
Is he not? Is he not playing? Oh, that's interesting. Oh, Son's just scored. There's live. So that's probably Son staying in. So that'll probably change things. Yeah. So I'm undecided. What would you suggest in my position?
I think if we work on the assumption that Kane, for now, I guess there's 10 days until Spurs next play in the Premier League.
Yeah.
At least 10, 11 days. So, and Tottenham, whenever Kane's injured, they rush him back. Like, they never take their time with him, do they? And he always is chomping at the bit to get back. So I think, like, for the purposes of this, like, we'll work on the assumption that Kane will be back. I think sorting out the Chelsea situation, like the goal, because at the moment you have no playing goalkeeper. Really, if we think that Tuchel might keep rotating Mendy and Kepa, it sort of, that's a bit of an unworkable situation, really. If you might have no goalkeeper every week for the rest of the season.
Yeah, so that might be, and the obvious contender there would be Martinez, and I think I've been 0.2 short, so I would have to. Diaz would probably be the one to come out just because he's not playing 33, so then I'd probably bring another defender in there. I'd not give it too much thought. So
you got 2 free transfers, haven't you?
Yeah, 2 free transfers. Yeah, so that wouldn't affect. I wouldn't have to play minus, but it's just who I'd bring in. Which, yeah, it's very much up in the air. Like you said, it's kind of having 2 transfers is kind of made this worse because it's like what you said in your intro. It's almost this game week's just like get through it almost kind of thing. So yeah, it'd be tricky. It'll come down to the wire. My only other thought was Diaz out for. Was it Diaz out for Cody and Vidra in for Keenan Davis? That was my only other option, but pretty reluctant to do that because Cody obviously is up against Vidra this weekend, and Vidra didn't play United game, and they only played one up front, so that might be a reason why. But yeah, if he's not played the last game, there's always going to be question marks about the next game. So yeah, a lot to think about ahead of this game. I'm like, hopefully going forward, I'll have a clear plan, just because there'll be a bigger break as well, and you kind of give it more thought. But yeah,
I think you've just you've let all this success with your rank get to your head, and you just can't be bothered coming on the podcast and giving out a clear plan anymore. You just
I mean, it's the common consensus when I've been looking across Twitter this week that no one really knows what to do. Like when you look at the fixtures this week, I mean, who's got a good fixture? Liverpool, and I've got 3 Liverpool. Chelsea away at West Ham is no gimme. The United and Leeds one, which we've hoped to target, but now Leeds are looking a lot better. It's no longer like, I mean, the start of the season where whenever they played a top 6 team, they got whipped, didn't they? And that's kind of changed now. I mean, Mason Green would probably want to bring in if I was bringing United player already at Bruno. Villa, West Brom, Villa out of form, West Brom firing. And then the Leicester Palace, which I talked about, might get Vardy in. But then the other options are not really worth considering at the moment. Madison with obviously that COVID break and stuff. So yeah, it's a tricky game week for me.
Yeah. So in short, you have no idea what you're doing.
And that's what I said before I came on.
Yeah. So just to give it a live update after that Son goal, what's your
Well, it's just been chalked out actually with the offside. Yeah.
Okay. Right.
So
okay.
good job we you mentioned that. I'll clip it up after so people don't know there's no goal.
Yeah. Well, you can use that as your out point. Well, I'll get into my game week and my team then. If nothing else to add from you.
Yeah, no, go for it. Yeah,
Sweet.
sorry, I can't be more definitive, but yeah, the fixtures and the uncertainty are just, it's quite tricky to plan this week.
So looking at my team, I'm on 62 points so far, which takes me currently from 42k to about 31k. So 10k rank jump, can't grumble at that. Especially with some of the stuff that happened over the weekend with players not playing and whatever. So yeah, as this, similar to Callum, didn't have Mendy playing for me last night for Chelsea, but Alonso and Rudiger both played, which was good. I think that's kind of separated me from some teams getting the double Chelsea clean sheet there. And then apart from that, my team is pretty template now. My transfer last week was Sterling to Salah, which was a little bit annoying because then Salah got rested. That does seem to be a pattern now with Liverpool, that one of Firmino, Mane, or Salah gets rested every week, which is something to monitor with captaincy. But hopefully now Salah won't get rested for the next few, so we don't have to worry. And then yeah, Iheanacho to go tomorrow. But yeah, like you said in yours, most teams have Iheanacho around our ranks. So my current thinking for next week is address the Mendy situation, either Mendy or Alonso, because I'm happy for one. I was happy for one of them to be rotated. Like I knew Alonso was a rotation risk. I didn't expect Mendy to be a rotation risk. So that's probably
Or Azpilicueta now. Yeah, they're all at it.
So if you go by the logic of, you fix the weakest point of your team, the weakest part of my team currently is Mendy, which is annoying because I don't like making goalkeeper transfers. I don't think many people do. If it's ambiguous from Tuchel and he sort of doesn't say what's going on, I'd be tempted to leave Mendy for a bit because I just don't like making goalkeeper transfers, and I've only got one transfer this week, and banking a transfer and having two with the double coming, and we'll have more information next week on what's going on with Kane and what's going on with just all the stuff that's up in the air, like not knowing what's going on with the doubles and stuff. So it is a good week to save a transfer this week, I think, as I was saying before. It's just whether many people will be able to do that with Tottenham and City not having a fixture.
Yeah, I didn't say in my bit actually that I'd be very surprised if Mendy doesn't play this weekend, just because it's Madrid, isn't it, on Tuesday or Wednesday, and for him to not play, would that be 10 days? He wouldn't have played a fixture or maybe more, and to go into Madrid not doing that would be interesting. So I think he'll probably. I'd be very surprised if he didn't play that game. He might get his rest in between the two Champions League games.
Yeah. So that leaves me for this week then. I currently, well, if we assume that Vidra comes back into the team, which, well, that's a poor assumption. Actually, let's assume Vidra doesn't come back into the team, just because Sean Dyche, he's not really been a big fan of Vidra during this whole time there. So if worst case scenario, Vidra and Mendy don't play, that would leave me with 9, which is a little bit annoying. So yeah, either do nothing and hope one of Vidra and Mendy play, or get rid of, suck it up and use a transfer to change Mendy to someone. How much have I got in the bank actually? Could I do Mendy to Martinez? No, I can't. So yeah, that's. Oh no, I can't. Yeah, I've got 0.2 in the bank and Martinez is 5.4, so that's perfect. That works out.
Yeah.
Right. And as we'll touch on later, Martinez, although it seems a weird move because everyone just took him out on wildcard, with the developments around the doubles and the blanks and stuff coming later in the season, Martinez looks a good keeper to have, see you through that period. So yeah, maybe that is my move this week. But yeah, should we get on with the rest of the running order?
Yeah. So
I'll let you get started.
Moving into Spurs and Man City, we've talked about Son and Kane a bit in our team roundup, but yeah, with the blank that's coming in 33 this game week, it's Spurs, City, Southampton, and who is the other one? It's just slipping my mind. Is it Palace? Trying to think. You help us out here. 33 is Fulham. Sorry, Fulham. So yeah,
I just thought I'd let you stew and panic.
Thanks for the radio silence for those listening to the podcast. Hopefully you're still here. We're still here. So Man City, Tottenham, Fulham,
we're here
Southampton.
physically, mentally we're absent.
So the two there are obviously Man City and Tottenham. And what do you do if you've got them players? For me, it's a kind of hope that there's an update on Kane. If Mason says fit for the weekend, then obviously that's a great thing. If he says the weekend might come too soon, but he's not too far away, then you've got an extra week there before the Sheffield United game. So I think the only way you would take him out, and a lot of people have a lot of value built up in Kane if you've had him a long time. I know I have. I think that's why I'm pretty reluctant. The way I would take Kane out of it was a few weeks. Son I'd probably keep as well, just because off the back of that blank. You've got Sheffield United followed by a lot of other fixtures that are great. The only Spurs, I think I'd keep, if I had Spurs and I had Son, Kane, but I had a defender or something like that, I think that would be the easy one for me. I'd take the defender out. That would be the way to get a player in for 33. And in terms of City, we saw the team news just before we came on as well. Obviously, Kevin De Bruyne is injured. I probably would take Kevin out if I had him. He might be back for the next game, but then you've also got the rotation factor as well. So it's not as if you've missed him for 33, but he's straight back in for 34. You've also got the rotation risk there. And the value that he is, he'll probably be an easy sell for me, whether it's Bruno or someone else. And then the defenders would probably be the next step if I needed another player. Depends who the defender is. If it's Cancelo or someone like Cancelo's out of form at the moment, so I know he's not playing again today, so he'd probably be an easy one. I know Diaz didn't play the last game, but he's back in today. I think Pep, I mentioned the last podcast, and I mean, I was very surprised that he didn't play. He's one that Pep will try and keep in the team just because it kind of, you won't want that bad defending to filter through to the Champions League game. I know we're out the FA Cup now, or Carabao. This is probably why he's playing ahead of the Carabao Cup final on Sunday, so I'd probably be reluctant to sell Diaz. Any other defender I probably would sell. Son, Kane I'd keep. Any other Spurs player I'd probably get rid of.
Yeah, the only thing I'd say is if you don't have, if there's anybody who doesn't have Salah and you've got Son, I'd maybe do that.
Yeah. Yeah. If you've not got Kev and you want Salah in, then Son, probably. I think for me, if you've not got free Liverpool now, I know we're going to talk about the blanks and doubles coming, but because they play every week, they do not blank. Let me just check that. I'm scared to say something now in case it's not right. They don't have a double, but they don't blank, and the fixtures are great. So Liverpool's the kind of team that you can kind of look at.
You're scared to say something? That's not like you. You always give clarity on what you're doing on this podcast.
I think if I'm in show in any position, well, attack's a bit difficult for me. It was a bit shit, but in defense or midfield, I think the moves are easier there. If you want a premium defender, Trent, cheaper defender, Phillips, although he might be injured now. Did he come off injured? I mean, everyone's injured, or you don't know what's the crack is. But yeah, Liverpool probably the team to target if I was getting off one of them premium assets.
Yeah, I think so. It sort of comes back to then if you think that you can get 9 or 10 out this week and just hope that you bench players like for me, like Vidra or Masuaku or something, hope they come back and don't just leave Kane and Son there for now. It's not. I don't really see that much potential, as you were saying, in this week for a 1 game week punt on getting rid of them, and then you're probably going to want them back. So yeah, that probably holds. The only one maybe worth mentioning one game week punt potentially is Greenwood, because he had a bit of a streak towards the end of last season, and it looks like that's happening again. Rashford's carrying an injury, which he's sort of having to be managed through, and Cavani's like on commentary that said at the weekend he said he didn't feel like he could start the game. And Martial's injured, so Greenwood's minutes look a bit more. Like he's not nailed on by any means, but he's going to get more minutes than he was doing. And when he's in this kind of form where he's just shooting on sight and his finishing looks decent, he could be an option for someone who's like, say if you've only got 8 or 9 and you do want to get rid of one of the, say for example Son, just to have an extra player this week. That could pay off for 1 week if Greenwood gets another couple of goals or something against Leeds.
Son's just scored a penalty, so he has got a goal, which is interesting.
Right.
Does that change your opinion?
Well, for people who can only get 8 players out or something. So say for example you've got a City player and 3 Spurs. If you can only get 8 out and you're not sure about your bench and whatever, you kind of do have to bring someone in this week, I think, don't you? I think 9 is fine. I don't know. Once you get down to like 8 players in a week or something, especially a week where most people will have 10 or 11, you're starting to risk things. But the other thing to think about though is we're taking those Tottenham players out is that Tottenham now, like towards the end of this game, it sounds like they've been pushing for a winner. Whereas under Mourinho, like that game against Everton, they sort of settled for a draw. So if under Ryan Mason, they're actually going to go for it and actually try and score goals.
Oh, you remember what happened to United when Ollie initially came into Jose? All the players hated Mourinho, so they were playing out the skins. So it'd be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah, exactly. So I think unless you really stuck, basically just keep the Spurs players is what I'd say.
Yeah, I think City's probably the easier one to sell than Spurs, especially if it's Kane and Son.
Yeah, exactly. And just obviously keep an eye over the next couple of days on what Ryan Mason says about Kane. So on Kane then, if Ryan Mason says he's out for the Leeds game, for the Sheffield game and the Leeds game, what would you do then?
What if he says that? Well, easy sell. Two game weeks at this stage of the season is quite. Right. Well, it'd be 3, won't it? If you include 33. Yeah. I think if he even says he's out for the Sheffield United game, that'll be enough for me to sell. Just because Leicester's next 2 is Palace, Southampton, and then they've got to double themselves, Newcastle and Man United. But that's not confirmed yet, but it's expected to come. So, yeah, if he's out of the Sheffield United game, that will probably be enough to sell for me.
Right. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, just because it's easy to get Vardy in, and by the time Vardy's fixtures go shit, which is 36 when they have a blank, you'd hope that Kane's price will be like what you sold for, if you get what I mean. If you're losing a bit of value, you probably get that back when you look to bring him back in.
Well, you could have said that in your bit at the start for YouTube, and you've just given away your little actual bit of something you might actually do.
I know. I don't think. Yeah, and I don't think it'll come because I think they'll want City guessing whether he's going to be fit, and B, they'll be doing absolutely everything to get him out on that game for that game, even if he's on painkillers. They'll probably, even if it probably disrupts the end of the season. You know, Spurs are going to be so desperate for a trophy, especially with the negative PR this week. Like they'll want to take some heat off with the fans, so. They'll be doing everything. Whether he'll be fit or not is another matter, but I think they'll keep it coy. I'll be very surprised now if after the game he says he's out for 3 to 4 weeks, but you never know.
Well, yeah, I'm sick of talking about City and Spurs now. Should we move on?
Yeah.
Unless you've got anything else to add.
No, next topic is what to do with City or Spurs. What do you think? The next topic is on rotation. We talked about Salah with Liverpool. Hopefully that might be less now they're out of the Champions League, because obviously he played a lot around the Champions League, and that's probably why he got his rest against Leeds. The fact that it's spilling into everywhere now, there's teams that have everything to play for, but still in European competition, which means rotation. There's teams that have nothing to play for, which means rotation. So there's a lot of teams where it used to be, like in a normal year, it was Pep's team sheet that you'd be frightful for, but now it's pretty much every team sheet and every player that you've got on your team. I don't think you can probably say, other than probably Lingard, who, West Ham are still going for Champions League and he's the heartbeat of that team. Any player you've probably got on your team, you could see a reason why they wouldn't play the next game. So I think for me, that probably means targeting teams. I know targeting teams that have probably got something to play for and not in European competition, which makes it quite tricky as such. There's not many around. So that's probably Leicester, West Ham, Liverpool, and now even Spurs. They're only going to finish the season strongly and try and sneak into that top four. So there's probably 4 teams there that I target. We talked about teams at the bottom, but that kind of relegation battle is slipping away a bit from Fulham, West Brom, despite West Brom's resurgence. So if they go down, then they might start to put in some young players, see how they do ahead of the Championship season. So I picked out 4 teams there that I'm going to try and look to target transfers. I don't know if you have any other thoughts on that.
Well, just quickly go back to your point about the rotation. Like, I don't think there's been a season where keepers have been rotated this much. It's mental. Like, like when Arteta says that Matty Ryan's been a beast in training, so we've given him a start. It's like, well, how much of a beast can a keeper be in training? Like, to unseat like quite an established number one in Leno, who's sort of it's very bizarre. And United, there's uncertainty with you never know when David De Gea could come back in, and obviously we've covered what's going on at Chelsea. So I think a lot of people will be having a headache about keepers, which isn't really unideal for this time of the season.
Yeah.
But you want to be making transfers that high impact and towards the top end of the pitch, not with the keeper. So couldn't come at a worse time, really, that aspect of rotation. And with the teams to target, I'd probably stick with what you said, except from if West Brom manage to get a result tomorrow against Leicester, they'll start to, well, they've already had a bit of belief, but they'll keep fighting for their lives, won't they? Like, so someone like Pereira could be
they're still 9 points behind, so as soon as they start to lose 1 or 2, but like you say, if the train just doesn't stop and they just keep on winning, then yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can't see them getting anything at Leicester tomorrow, but on the off chance they do, that would shake things up a bit, wouldn't it? There's nobody else you'd consider from the ones fighting in that relegation scrap?
Well, Burnley are severely out of form. They're the ones who Fulham completely lost it. It was only 5 or 6 weeks ago where they were tipped to kind of make the way out of it. But yeah, West Brom, bit of resurgence last 2. You look at Burnley, Brighton continue to flat deceive, and then probably anyone above there is probably safe. Probably just need 1 more win out of 6 games. So they're probably the teams that are on the beach. Those were just the 4 teams that I picked out. I couldn't see a case for anyone else. I know Wolves have got a decent little run, but then the fixtures kind of turn. So I'm kind of looking towards either them 4 teams or my plan around the double and the blank that follows. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting end to the season, how you play it.
Yeah, that's fair enough. So yeah, you'd recommend concentrating towards the hunt for the Champions League, basically, rather than the relegation scrap.
Yeah, just because they tend to be the better FPL assets anyway. Like that's who we spend our season looking at, those kind of teams at the top. And then you kind of, every so often a player at the bottom, like obviously Timu Puki and players like that, kind of emerge, and whether Matthias Pereira is the one, but he seems to have like a double-digit haul and then doesn't feature again for ages, does he? I know he had 2 in last 2, but other than that, all season he's kind of had a double digit and then disappeared for a while. So I am going to look to probably target that Champions League battle. I mean, Spurs now are only 2 points off Champions League, so they're going to be in full flow for the rest of the season, you'd think.
So basically what you're saying is I can't talk you to bringing in Callum Robinson into your team.
Probably not, no.
Well, that's a shame. So yeah, I think this week more than ever on the rotation stuff, listen intently to the press conferences tomorrow and Friday before you make your transfers, and use that information to help you. And if you're really unsure, as I said before, probably try and save a transfer and use them when there's a clearer picture of what's going on. I think so many people have been distracted with what's going on this week and all that stuff. I think it maybe is a week just to take a step back, and if you can, just look at it again with fresh eyes next week with 2 transfers then. But yeah, should we move on then to your double game week special section?
I mean, yeah, this whole podcast really has been trying to make sense of an absolute mindfuck. So this is going to be another interesting segment. So this is around the double game week in 35, which immediately is followed by the double in 35 that's immediately followed by the blank in 36. So you identified 4 teams earlier that have a double in 35 and then blank, and then also playing 36. So that's Southampton, Everton, Crystal Palace, and Villa, which makes the Emi Martinez keeper shout more attractive. Probably makes the return of Calvert-Lewin or someone like that more attractive. But whether he comes back from his injury, well, I know it was only knock, wasn't it? So he should be back.
Just to clarify, the reason I picked out those teams is you don't want to be filling your team with the other teams because then they won't play in the next week. So yeah, it's just annoying that those 4 teams are not teams you want to be targeting. So because everything we've just said about teams like playing for stuff and having motivation doesn't really apply to those teams, does it? I guess the only thing you'd look for maybe is like someone like, if there's someone like, trying to play themselves into shop window, maybe Zaha or something like that. That could be
or Grealish returning. If Grealish comes back this weekend as another game against Everton, looks good, then he's kind of comes into consideration, don't he, with the double and the single. It's kind of you kind of wish it was the other way around, because the other 4 that double then blank are Arsenal, Chelsea, Leicester, United, which makes it even harder, because if you lump on them teams, I mean, it's probably Chelsea, Leicester, United, then it's quite hard to jump back off them. But I think Leicester's
going
probably
for the Golden Glove as well. He must be close.
Potentially. I know Edison might be a few clear, but yeah.
I'll quickly check that as you.
Yeah, for me, the 35-36 conundrum makes it a lot easier if you've got Leicester players, because their double, Newcastle United, is immediately followed by blank, Chelsea, Tottenham. So that's probably the one where if you've got Iheanacho, you've got Vardy, you've got another, maybe a defender or something, they're probably the easy ones to jump off in 36 and get some players in who are playing that game. In terms of the others, United probably pretty reluctant because it's Fulham, Wolves. Chelsea, Leicester, Villa immediately follows, which isn't that tricky. And then Arsenal, if anyone's still got Arsenal, because they're very much focused now on the Europa League and hopefully getting Champions League qualification through that. So Arsenal probably avoided anyway. So yeah, not.
Oh, one thing we should touch on actually is Lacazette's injury, because some people did have Lacazette. What would you do with What would you be doing with Lacazette?
Probably Iheanacho if I've not got him. Trying to think who else. Maybe Ollie Watkins, just because they kind of He's probably one other than Grealish that probably strikes me as the one that people might go for with the double, and then they're also playing the game week after. Probably them two, and Calvert-Lewin actually potentially, because they got Arsenal, Villa, double, Sheffield United. So there's probably a few options.
He's not fit, is he, or is he supposed to be back soon?
So you don't knock. For the life of me, this game week, I cannot remember if people played or not. Let's try and find
out. So
he's got a groin injury.
You're checking that, something else.
So he's not played the last two, right. But whether he comes back, yeah.
See, that's one to monitor if he comes back, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
So something I saw on one of the Fantasy Football Scout streams, they had a nice little section on. So the teams that I just talked about, the ones that play in the double and don't have a blank, so Everton, Southampton, Villa, and Palace, they knocked up a table in terms of over the last 6, which players have had the most expected goal involvement. So Ward-Prowse actually comes out top on that. And
right, he had an assist today as well.
Yeah. And I mean, even though Southampton haven't got much to play for, he's in contention for the England squad, so he's going to still be putting in performances. He's on pens and he's on all set pieces, so he could be one to look at. But I guess you do that sort of closer to the game at 35, wouldn't you? You wouldn't do it now. But yeah, it's just something. Something to think about, like trying to find a gem from those 4 teams that will see you through that tricky period.
It'll be interesting to see whether the free hitters make ground this week, because I know there's not many people with chipped left, but that 35 probably strikes you as the only time really that you'd play it now, isn't it? With 8 teams having a double fixture.
Yeah, or you could do it the other way and sort of build for the double and then free hit the week after when all those teams blank. So yeah, that is.
Yeah, that would be focus when it's 35 and 36.
Yeah. So if you do still have your free hit, that looks when to use it, doesn't it? Around those 2 weeks. I think last season I used it in the very last week, but there wasn't all this stuff going on last season.
I think you deserve a trophy if you make it to the end of 38 this year rather than finishing anywhere near the top.
Yeah, I wonder how many people have just thought, if this was your first ever season playing FPL, you'd probably be thinking, fuck this game. Never do that again.
Probably spent more time than full-time job.
What a season for us to decide to finally do a podcast, though.
At least we're both doing all right. Well, one of us.
I mean, I'm sort of edging towards like a sort of somewhat respectable finish now with this sort of. Hang on, let me just quickly check my live rank again after that Son goal. So,
top 10k.
No, somehow I've gone down. That doesn't make sense. 32, but yes, still somewhere around 32. So yeah, my target of my season target right at the beginning was top 10, and then as I was having a bit of a shite season, I thought we'll move that down to top 20. But I think unless I start having some horror shows, well on track for the respectable top 20k finish. So if this first season of having the podcast has like you in the top 1k and me somewhere around top 20, I mean, can't grumble. Could have gone a lot worse.
We'll have to set up our own Patreon for next season.
Yeah, or yeah, you might wheel out your Super League plans. You'll just create a podcast with only people who've got a history of being in the top 1k. Assured entry every season for those elite members.
No chance for anyone to come in after that. Don't care how many points to get after
that. Questions wise, did we have anything else to go through? We had one question from.
Is it around Mindy and Kane, wasn't it? We probably answered that in the podcast.
Yeah, I can't really be bothered talking through that again, especially for Zach. So yeah, just listen through to the podcast again, basically. Anything else to go through for this week? Did you want to talk through the City team sheet or anything around City?
No, it's interesting that we've gone full strength this evening. I know Kevin De Bruyne's injured, but other than that, it's probably the first 11 now because Sterling's not playing too well at the moment. Cancelo is not playing too well, and he didn't play the last Champions League game. So, yeah, full strength for this game, which is quite interesting that we've done that and not for the FA Cup, which kind of obviously realised that Pep is still heavily intensifying the league, which you probably wouldn't think would happen. 6 games left, 8 points. I suppose if you lose tonight and then United win at the weekend, it suddenly starts to become a bit of a title race, which Pep is probably trying to avoid that. So, yeah, maybe if we win tonight, then it will be back to the Pep rotation. But for anyone who's picked a City player tonight, other than De Bruyne, you're probably very happy and hopefully they get the result.
Yeah, exactly.
Even your mate Foden's playing.
My mate Foden. I'm just going to before we wrap up, I'm just going to quickly check if on the Tottenham Twitter feed, just on the off chance there's an update on Kane before we finish. There won't. No. Oh, that's not very helpful. They've linked to a video rather than putting the quotes like actually on Twitter. So that's annoying. But yeah, look out for that. Look out for the stuff on Kane. That's essentially what's going to be the main problem for people this week, isn't it? Chelsea.
Yeah, my advice is if he's missing the Sheffield United game and that gets confirmed, then I probably would take him out just because it's 2 weeks at the minimum there for a premium attacker. And when Vardy's such an easy option to go to, I think you shouldn't overthink that, in my opinion.
Yeah. So I mean, would it just be Vardy or nobody else?
Well, at that price bracket, yeah. And is it 3 fixtures that Leicester have that are really good? Look. Obviously, you're not going to get the West Brom, but you'd be loving it if you got the West Brom game out of that. But you're obviously not. It's Palace, Southampton, Newcastle, 3 after that. So for me it makes it an easy decision. But I just don't think they're going to have that much clarity. We'll wait and see.
One move I wanted to mention actually is say for example you're in my position and say for example Mendy does start playing in the Premier League and Tuchel hints at that. I'd probably maybe look at getting rid of Alonso instead, especially if Kane's going to be fine. And Alonso to Pereira looks a decent move with those Leicester fixtures. And Pereira is still playing wing back. So that's another one to consider for attacking that Leicester run. But yeah, I think that's about it for this week.
Yeah, hopefully we've helped make you sense of, because there's a lot of distraction this week, so it was quite difficult to get your head back in the game really with FPL. But then you've also got the blank and then doubles and blanks. So if you're still heavily involved in the game, it's quite a distressing time. You're obviously not distressed playing FPL, but yeah, it's quite hard to get your head around what the best moves are going to be going forward. But I think a Kane injury, serious injury, that hope it was not, will make things easier.
Yeah, just fingers crossed Ryan Mason gives some clear. Hopefully he just doesn't do an ollie and just be like completely vague. But yeah, good luck with making anything close to a sensible decision this week. That's all you can hope for, really. And catch you next week. Hopefully we'll be on a better form and we'll be able to actually make
sense of what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, see you next week.
Yeah.
This week, that's all you can hope for, really. And catch you next week. Hopefully we'll be on a better form and we'll be able to actually make
sense of what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, see you next week.
Yeah.